Greetings from Castle Goring, from Mickey, Aurora, and from me. My cuddle buddles are going to stay right by me so I can stroke them as I plunge in with Hilltop Girl, who says, just how H, no matter what his gripes are, could bear to cohabit with those two, presumably Hilltop Girl means, because she doesn't specify, but I would imagine she means Meghan and Doria and Uriah Heep and Meghan. I'm just Mr. Mill. I'm just the most fabulous woman that God ever put on this earth. Don't you just think my plastic surgery has made me look good? And I just love when the newspapers say that I'm photographed without makeup and my cheeks are blushed to within an inch of their lives, and my mouth is glossed to within an inch of its life, and my eyebrows are coloured to within an inch of their lives. And it's the no makeup look that takes me only about half an hour to put on. Not like the fully made up look that takes an hour and a half. But anyway, as Hilltop Girl was saying, I mustn't interrupt her because she's speaking about me. Just how H, no matter what his gripes are, could bear to cohabit with those two, considering his previous surroundings. It just boggles the mind. Migraine ran away because she couldn't cope with his opulence. So how can he cope with her lacks? There is a mile-high barrier there. The nouveau riche cannot scale, and she certainly isn't very far up the ladder. That's not fitting in H. It's crazy. Hilltop Girl, you have hit upon something that is fundamental to the issue of Harry and Meghan, and why she was never ever going to be able to be a suitable wife for him. In my book, Meghan and Harry, The Real Story, I recount from members of the aristocracy who were dead eager to embrace Meghan, how she spurned them. Now, a part of the reason why she did it, in my view, is because she wanted to fail at being a royal heir, because she didn't want, no career girl, and she is a career girl, it's all about her rewards, and she is a real pro. There are no two ways about it. She's an absolute pro. And no pro is going to want to be in a situation where you lead a lavish life, you are compensated for your efforts, you are remunerated in that your expenses are paid, but you don't get cash in hand. Meghan is a cash in hand girl. She was not at the level of a pro that would be able to envisage that the rewards with patience might be much greater than if you exercised impatience. Now, at the end of it all, Meghan will have made maybe $20 or $30 million, if that. I mean, over generous. With patience, had she not been taking the beady eye of a true professional career girl in terms of When I give that milk, everybody's got to pay for it. I'm not doing anything for nothing. She'd have been able to have maximized and made much more money than that. She was impatient. She also is a fish out of water, because one of the elements of aristocrats, wherever you go all over the world, whether it's a Japanese aristocrat, a Malay aristocrat, a Saudi Arabian aristocrat, a Greek aristocrat, a Roman aristocrat, I should say an Italian aristocrat, a French aristocrat, a Polish aristocrat, an American aristocrat, because you have an aristocracy in America as well. They all have a very great deal in common. The world of the aristocracy is relatively small and hugely international. It is the only class that transcends national borders. Well, royalty does as well, but we can lump royalty in with aristocracy. The other classes do not transcend national borders. They are uniquely their own kind. And the aristocracy has far more in common with itself, irrespective of its nationality, than it does with any other class within its own country. So you're absolutely right, Hilltop girl. There is no way Meghan was ever going to be comfortable, because one of the cornerstones of well-bred people is that you are yourself. You are authentic. You got to be authentic. And she's anything but authentic, because she's so pretentious. Cock that finger and take tea. I'm classy. She comes from everything at an opposing angle. And as William said, she is abrasive. Well-bred people are forward, or straightforward would be a better way of putting it, and can be quite politically incorrect. But they are usually not abrasive. They may be argumentative, they may be tiresome, but that chippy, bumptious, abrasive, oikish quality that Meghan has about her is very much the arriviste who's elbowed her way throughout life. And that just doesn't sit well with anybody. And it doesn't sit well with her, because, she is abrasive in a smooth and silken environment. As for Doria, I wouldn't employ Doria as a maid. After what I saw of her contribution on Netflix, I thought she acquitted herself very well at the wedding. She appeared to possess dignity. I have since discovered that what I thought was dignity is the silence of somebody who's learned through her environment to keep her counsel. Gotta be quiet and navigate your way throughout this environment. It goes along with a category of person. And the constant race baiting and everything is racism is, the world of aristocracy is not racist the way Doria would like to believe they're racist. I remember a late friend of mine, Sir Michael Peto, who used to stay with me during Ascot Week in London because he lived in Scotland. And we were speaking about, I don't remember who it was, and his son-in-law was black, public school educated. Public school, incidentally, in England is private school. And an impeccable gentleman. And Michael made the point that he would sooner have his son-in-law, that some people might have thought, oh, he's black and therefore might not be acceptable. But no, he was an absolute gent and was totally acceptable, fitted right in. While whoever it was that we were speaking about, and I can't remember now, it would have been some arriviste, rich arriviste, who was anathema. I'll use another example. Blondel Clough, Algie Clough's wife. She is black. She's a West Indian, but she's a black West Indian. Impeccably behaved. Fits in perfectly. I'll use another example. That Nigerian girl to whom the Lascelles boy is married. Never any problem. So colour is not the problem. I suppose you could say in the Meghanese vernacular, lack of class is the problem. Because the aristocracy has a code of behaviour that is in many ways international. There are variables nationally, but there are common threads that are international. And so there is no way Meghan was ever going to fit in with her attitudes. Now, many a working class and middle class girl has married into the aristocracy and fitted in because she had noble values. A peasant can have noble values, and a peasant with noble values will ultimately fit in to the aristocracy far better than a bumptious oik with ignoble values. And Meghan's mercenary, chippy, attention-seeking, really treacherous, disloyal behaviour, bad-mouthing everybody and everything to make herself look good, is the antithesis of noble. It's ignoble. Jessie Warner says, I work in a very multicultural area, and the common denominator criticism of Meghan I observe is how badly she treats her family. Not everyone in America follows the royal family or the Montecito machinations. They don't know about the lies, the plotting, the malignancies, etc. But they do know the way she treated her family, and betrayal of family seems to be a universal taboo. No one can understand how she could betray her family so publicly, especially for money. The same is true for Harry. It makes them very unpopular from my experience. Jessie Warner, you have hit the nail very firmly on the head, and you are agreeing with one of the main planks of my book, Meghan and Harry, The Real Story. I have said it all along. Meghan's downfall would be the way she treated her father, because nobody who is decent fails to appreciate, honour thy mother and thy father, that thy days on this earth may be long. You don't have to like your parents. You don't even have to speak to your parents. But you certainly don't dishonour your parents the way Meghan has done. And you don't set up your family for abuse, humiliation, hostility, condemnation, and revilement the way Meghan set up not only her father, but the rest of her family. And let's not forget, she didn't only exclude the white side of her family, she excluded the black side of her family as well. The only member of her family who she did not exclude from that wedding was her. I know how to keep my mouth tightly shut because I've functioned in environments where if you don't keep your mouth tightly shut, you're gonna be in big trouble, mama. Yes, I agree. That is irrecoverable from, in my view, unless she turns over a new leaf, issues a mea culpa, confesses to the fact that she was on something or comes up with some lie to excuse the fact that she's a heartless hussy. Then she might stand a chance, but she's proud and arrogant and chippy and impertinent. She lacks humility. I don't think she's ever going to do a mea culpa. She spent her whole life saying, you're at fault. J'accuse, j'accuse, j'accuse. That's her shtick. She accuses you. She's not responsible for anything. But yes, I agree. Totally. And it's irrecoverable from, in my view. Felix the cat says, hello again, Lady C. Hello, Felix. Meow. Why I believe that Harry and Meghan's relationship seems to be growing apart are the following observations. 1. Why didn't Meghan accompany Harry to the King's coronation? Well, I'll stop you right there and say, she was told by William Morris Endeavour she'd better not go. Such brand as she has been so tainted by their conduct. The brand couldn't survive, or the brand would be further endangered, to put it another way, if she had dared to show her face for the coronation, because she would have been frozen out and booed, and they couldn't take the chance. That's, I was told, the main reason why she did not attend the coronation. Now, for Norma Desmond to miss her moment in front of the camera takes some sacrifice, Mr. DeMille. I'm ready for my close-up and the camera's gone to England. I mean, it's got to be racist. The camera's got to be racist. Everybody's racist, Mr. DeMille. And I'm ready for my close-up. But I suppose I make the sacrifice for my brand. Like she's cereal or some such thing. Sorry. Why didn't Meghan accompany Harry to the King's coronation, even if it was their son's Archie's birthday? Surely, out of royal protocol and good etiquette, she could have accompanied her husband, as I'm sure there are staff at the palace who could have kept Archie and Lilibet entertained during the ceremony. And what a great chance for those children to meet their grandparents after the ceremony. I'm sure Archie would have loved to have met the new king and queen, who of course he doesn't know. No, I don't buy the excuse that it was for Archie's sake. You shouldn't buy it. It was claptrap. But instead, it was a good time to put some distance between Meghan and her husband. 2. Why does Harry have to move into a hotel? I'm sure there are enough rooms at their villa. The fact they have 16 bathrooms suggests there are probably as many bedrooms. In American houses, there are often fewer bedrooms than bathrooms. Don't ask me why. It's a role reversal everywhere else. Perhaps they can no longer stand living together. It certainly suggests they have a problem with their relationship. And may I stop you there and say, I have been told now by so many reliable sources that the marriage is in a big trouble, that I think you are on to something here. The marriage is in big trouble. They are in big trouble. Their game plan, her game plan. She's the one who orchestrated the move. She's the one who dropped poison in his ear. She's the one who encouraged him to use the book as a confessional. She's the one who spilt her guts, phony as they are, to Oprah. Can you imagine Oprah? They were speculating about Archie's skin color and how dark he might be. They're so racist. Racist. And I'm pregnant as well. But I'm certainly pregnant, that's for sure. So don't worry about my sniffles. It's going to be okay. They're not going to affect the baby. No, they're not. My sniffles are going to stay north of this border. They're not going to go south down Mexico way. Not a chance. 3. Why did Meghan refuse to let Harry kiss her at the baseball event? Her smiles cannot hide the fact that she didn't want him to touch her, suggesting all's not well with them. Well spotted. Well spotted. Whenever they are together, Harry seems depressed and uncomfortable, while Meghan puts on that fake smile. Could it be that they are no longer happy together? I understand they are not happy together. And I understand that Harry is cowed by Meghan. And Harry is trained up by the Delphic oracle. And he, being the prime member of the cult, has to watch to see what the Delphic oracle needs, wants, or has wound him up about. So I think their demeanor is indicative of what's going on in the relationship, because Meghan privately is far fiercer than she is publicly. I have been reliably informed. And yes, she spurned his advances when they had agreed that the cameras could capture them and they were supposed to kiss. Everybody else has done it. But of course, she had to do something different because, when you are as unimaginative and as oppositional and as determined to be different and determined to make out that you are special as Meghan, you always have to do the one thing you're not supposed to. Remember, she gave everybody a clue. She said she was Princess Shira, the rebel. And she is Shira, the rebel. Except she is a very destructive rebel. Anyway, could it be they are no longer happy together? What do you think, Lady C? In my opinion, I believe the strain in their relationship began with the publications of Harry's autobiography, Spare. Since then, Meghan has been withdrawing from the scene, only to later emerge as her own woman. Your thoughts, please. Well, as I have said before, and I'm going to say again, part of that is marketing. She is trying to rebrand herself as a desirable commodity, sans Harry, without Harry. Their double act has proven to be a total failure. She's hoping her single act will be more of a success. When she does Poop, her version of Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop. And also, everything they have done has failed. And not only have they failed ignominiously publicly, which is humiliating for them, but these failures have impacted upon their financial hopes, desires, and expectations. And therefore, they now have serious money troubles. And when money troubles enter through the door, harmony, usually in a marriage, flies out of the window. Even when there is genuine love. Even when there is genuine love. And I don't see that Meghan is anything but a career operator who has used marriage as an advancement professionally. I think he had genuine feelings, confused, mixed up, maybe not very healthy, in fact, definitely not healthy, but sincere. I think, like all great operators, Meghan has sincerity down pat. The only thing is, she might be able to dupe Harry. She's not been able to dupe the rest of the world, and certainly none of us. Lady says, thank you, Lady C. As usual, an exquisite commentary. Thank you. My question for you is, do you think Meghan has ever revealed her full self to Harry? Is she in character 24/7? Best wishes. That's an excellent question. I understand from people who know Meghan very well and have known her all her life that Meghan is an accomplished actress, and that the Meghan that they thought existed for years turned out to not exist. Every time the cash register rang and a few dollar bills were slipped under, more and more of her heart and more of her humanity and more of what they had thought was Meghan the individual disappeared. They are of the view that there is no such person in reality as Meghan Markle, human being. That there is Meghan Markle cash register there is Meghan Markle. I'm gonna get an Oscar. I've got to get an Oscar. Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up. Mr. DeMille, I need an Oscar. Mr. DeMille, please. And I need security as well. They are of the view that Meghan doesn't have a natural, authentic, sincere, or real bone in her body. That she is such an accomplished actress, or she's such a phone. Oh, yes, she said it. I'm such a fraud. And let's go with what she said, that she is such a fraud that she doesn't actually exist. What exists is a series of masks that she puts on and takes off to press people's buttons and get out of them what she wants. And she has the ability to maintain these facades for years at a time. And as soon as the incentive that allowed her to slap on the mask no longer exists, the mask disappears. As if it had never been there, as if she had never existed. Now, I actually have met at least one other person like that in my life who is a total phony, a total fraud, a total opportunist, a total sociopath, a totally driven, ambitious, social climbing void, who is very personable when it suits her, but as somebody I know whose specialty was psychiatry in medical school said to me, hand on heart, I can swear, blah, blah, no names mentioned, is the only person I have ever met in the whole of my life who I can tell you with absolute certainty, if it suited her, would annihilate somebody, step over their corpse and not look back and don't give it a second thought. So I've met people like that. I know this person very well. This is actually somebody that was in my life as well. And that individual does not exist as a soul. That individual has no soul, no spirit, no true feelings. And of what I have been told by people who know Meghan very well and have known her very well all her life, she is another person like that. And these people never tell or reveal or impart knowledge about their real selves. I gather, if you read upon the subject and speak to the experts, and I have friends who are psychiatrists, psychologists, etc., and I have spoken to them about situations and predicaments like this. People like that are so void, so lacking in human elements. They can't admit it to themselves even. So they never show their real self to anybody, and certainly not some dupe they're playing for worldly gain. And they never show their true selves to themselves. Isn't that interesting? Their whole life is a denial of their vacuity, their emptiness, their lack of human feeling and human traits. But these modes of behavior that they develop are acts that, depending on their personality, they can execute with a lesser or greater degree of comfort. Now, the person I was speaking to you about, that this doctor whose specialty was psychiatry, told me what her capabilities are. She's fairly consistent, and she's not overtly attention seeking. She is what you call a covert narcissist. Meghan is an overt narcissist. This other woman engineers behind the scenes sneakily to get attention. Not Megsy Baby, she does it overtly. That causes greater strain for her. That causes greater volatility because she is more dependent on a daily basis for the feedback from others. That creates more strain within her psyche, which enter volatility. So I hope that has answered the question. And last but not least is the most important of all of this, of today's episode. MP3 says, President Macron of France has recently stated that Europe is decivilising. What do you think of that statement? Is he right or wrong? He's right. The Western world is decivilising. At the very moment that we have achieved greater comfort, greater prosperity, and greater apparent liberality for more people than have ever existed in the history of humanity before and in any civilization, we are at the peak, and it's downward with such things as our desire for censorship, the fracturing within society, where the individual is, and the individual's, not even the individual's welfare, but the individual's desires and feelings are put above not only society's well-being, but the individual's long-term well-being. This degree of self-indulgence is extremely destructive. There hopefully is a pushback at the moment. There appear to be signs of a pushback, but in the last 30 years, there has been a momentum of deifying the individual at the expense of society generally and civilization, and deifying the individual's rights, in quotes, to self-gratification at the expense of the individual's ultimate welfare. Now, I'm going to say what President Macron said, because I actually agree with pretty much everything President Macron said. President Macron is, in my opinion, the only leader in our part of the world who has taken a very considered view of his duties as a leader. I mean, there are others in Europe who are heading in this direction, but Macron has done it in such a way that he has basically said to the people of France, excuse me, this can't continue. You need to wake up and grow up. He said that civilization in France is unraveling amidst widespread violence, the spread of conspiracy theories, and the influence of left-wingers dreaming of a new revolution. He's absolutely right. And it's not only France, but it's been, France is at the forefront of this and has been for some time. I lived on and off in France for 14 years, and I can tell you something. It was a nightmare because the three favorite words in France are attendre, control, and grève. Attendre, wait, control, and grève, strike. And French society is at the forefront of this breach of civilization, which is not that surprising because France was at the forefront of the Enlightenment in the 18th century. Voltaire, Rousseau, etc. And France, with the revolution, tried to introduce many of the ideas that we now hold dear, but in such a detrimental and destructive way that France has swung back and forth on the pendulum. But anyway, Macron made the point that there is real concern amongst government ministers about the breakdown in law and order. I don't know why he's waited this long, because I've been saying this from when I was spending a lot of time in France, sort of living there half the time. Well, not half the time, but a lot of the time. And I've been saying this, that it's a broken society and that law and order had broken down. But now that there has been a spate on elected representatives and the death of policemen and the stabbing of a nurse by a psychiatric patient, they're waking up to the fact that, hang on, the authorities are being threatened. When it was the authorities having joined forces with the rebellious public, the French state had no complaint to make about the impact this was having on people who lived in France and their lives. Now that the problem has hit them in their faces, they're waking up to the fact that it was a problem. They should have been aware of the fact it was a problem before. But I suppose as long as their skins weren't on the line, the government was perfectly able to turn a blind eye. But now that their skins are in danger of being stripped off, all of a sudden he's woken up to the fact. Well, he should have woken up long before, but I get why he didn't wake up before, because aside from anything else, he wouldn't have been elected. So, I mean, it's politically clever of him. And it's also politically courageous of him to make this point now, because people could actually use it against him. But anyway, according to Macron, France is being decivilized because no violence is legitimate, whether verbal or against people, Macron said in a weekly cabinet meeting. We have to work in depth to counter this process of decivilisation. Well, of course, the savages, and believe me, there are an awful lot of savages out there who are uncivilized, have been criticizing the comments as being a nod to the left, to the populist right wing. Well, law and order is for the good of all. Breakdown of law and order, when it endangers the rights of all, is not a right or a left wing issue. It is a societal issue. According to Macron, we have to work in depth to counter this process of decivilization. Yes. His advisors informed the press that it was a reference to Norbert Elias, the 20th century German sociologist who described how self-restraint and social inhibitions had civilized Europe. First in, wait for it, the royal courts, and then across the population. He did this in a book called The Civilizing Process. According to one of Macron's ministers, who attributed the problem in part to social media's role in making thought and action accessible in a way it had never been previously. So spreading, everything is immediate, all information is immediate. Anybody has access in a way they didn't before. He said, taboos are falling one after the other. I'm reading it out. People are getting used to comments that are more and more violent, to mudslinging and accusations that are more or less brutal. That is only a part of it. This has been true since I was in France at the turn of this century, when social media was not the issue or the benefit that it now is. So there are societal problems and expectations and fantasies that go way beyond social media, and you can't blame social media. But anyway, Macron quite rightly stated that the trend is present throughout the West, but that in France it is not driven so much by the popular right, but by the radical left. And I agree with him there. And I don't think it's driven, in fact, in the other Western nations by the populist right. I think it is being driven by the radical left as well. He blamed the followers of Jean-Luc Mélenchon, who is the leader of the France Unbowed Party, who one minister said wanted to bring back the reign of terror, which was a period during the French Revolution when Robespierre headed up the Committee of Public Safety and instituted the reign of terror. And yes, there is in France, but this applies in variations across the board in Western countries. In Britain, in the United States, the radical left want to use power and use force and use deprivation of others' rights to basically overturn the checks and balances and the decorum that is necessary in a civilized society. But I think social media and YouTube in particular are very helpful, because I think people like us have woken up to the danger that exists, and we are making our voices heard, and we are the backlash that is so necessary to prevent the radical left or radical anybody from decivilizing our civilization and rendering us prisoners of an undesirable civilization. So I hope that has been of some interest. I think it's fundamentally one of the most important issues facing the world at the moment. There are one or two others, but I think this is one of them. And I therefore hope that this has not bored people, and that you have actually thought, wow, maybe this is something I should look at, and maybe this is something that I can engage with, and maybe I can, in my own small way, make a difference. Because each of us, no matter how important we are, our way is important, and no matter how small our way is, many grains of sand make a beach. And I don't kid myself. I'm no highfalutin or major power on earth. But I think like-minded people will agree that if I use such platform as I have to enhance the well-being of all within society, that is a noble thing to do. Don't you agree? I hope you do. Thank you very much for listening. I hope this hasn't been too heavy and boring. Godspeed. Take good care. Please keep the questions and comments coming in. Thank you so much. And if you have enjoyed this, please like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and God bless you.